Ayubowan, Namaskar, Honorable Minister, distinguished guests and friends. When I was asked to take part in this event, and funnily enough in Madhya Pradesh of all places in the country, I agreed to do so because I felt that we should have Indian Ocean, our region versions of what's happening. Asia is too subjugated to the Western news medias and now maybe to the Middle Eastern, that we haven't got one which deals with the issues of the world. We are well covered with our own news, but certainly not in regard to what is there or what's happening in the rest of the world. So, first I must thank Mr. Sharma for what he has done. I hope this continues, because then we can discuss our viewpoints on what's happening in the rest of the world. So when I received this invitation to speak on NXT in South Asia, I was reminded of an article which I had read in the Foreign Affairs magazine. The end of South Asia, a region in name only. So it led me to question, what is South Asia? It's a very recent construct. And even the terminology is from the West, not from us. You do not come across this term in any of the South Asian languages, not in any of the Indian languages, not in our Sri Lankan languages, not in Bengali. Actually, the concept of South Asia can be traced back to World War II. During the Quebec Conference in 1943, President Roosevelt and Prime Minister Churchill agreed to create a separate command for this area, a suggestion by the British Chiefs of Staff to name it Southeast Asia. Why they thought of it, I do not know, but the name stuck on. And when a regional association was started in 1968, it was called Southeast Asian Association. At that time, the definition of Southeast Asia even included Sri Lanka. I was the Deputy Foreign Minister of Sri Lanka in 1977 when President Zia Rahman of Bangladesh proposed a regional association. Both Bangladesh had applied to join ASEAN and been turned down. Sri Lanka's reapplication had been turned down. So when President Rahman and President Jayawardena met in Colombo in 1979, we fleshed out the idea of regional association. It was put together and agreed in 1983. Afghanistan came into the association, which was in 2007. When this association was formed, it seemed that all the leftovers, all those not included in any regional cooperation scheme, had been thrown into this association. In fact, we were like a trifle, consisting of leftover cakes and desserts. Then we had to find a name. So we found this name, South Asia. Do you know where it came from? The United States. In 1949, US Security and Defense Establishment had a subcommittee responsible for security negotiations and agreements. And they decided to refer to our area as South Asia. So we took this name and started calling ourselves South Asia. But unlike ASEAN, which had successful trade integration, which led to Asia Pacific, and to RCEP, it was a different story in South area. We have made very, very slow progress. There is SAFTA. Our heads of government hasn't met since 2014. Nevertheless, we are bound by strong commonalities such as regions, languages, and culture. Our civilizations emanate from the Indus Valley, from the Mohenjo-daro and the civilizations that came thereafter on the Indus Valley and the Gangetic Plains. Some of our countries are also influenced by the Mughal culture, of Islamic, Indian tradition, of legal, political and educational frameworks and systems that we have inherited from the British. While we have no formal trade agreement beyond SAFTA, a lot of unofficial trade is taking place. For instance, the unofficial trade between Sri Lanka and Chennai, I think sometimes exceeds the official trade that takes place between these two countries. We have BIMSTEC, which on the other hand has been making slow progress and includes 2 ASEAN members. According to this article, they refer to South Asia as unbound. It says that SAARC has failed in stimulating the type of regional integration promoted by ASEAN and that therefore we have failed. But my question is this the only criteria for a regional association? Is ASEAN the only model? These trading blocks for regional association started in the 1950s. Why? 4 European countries that had lost its empire and a Germany that had been cut into half decided to get together to start a common market. They had nowhere else to go for economic strength. But is this the only thing that we have? On the other hand, we have the Arab League, which keeps meeting regularly, and it has 7 observer states, including India, Greece, Venezuela and Brazil. The Arab League meets. They have meetings. Our histories do not refer to any continents. For millennia, we thought of ourselves in an Indian Ocean-centric world. That's the only world that we live. China referred to its Middle Kingdom. We didn't call ourselves Asia or anything. But we had relations with others, we had wars with others, we had pacts with others, we had trade with others. Each region or sub-region is created for a specific political reason. And in these instances, by powers outside the region. So have we got to restrict ourselves to these definitions? Power is coming into Asia. So we can evolve our own concepts. China has done that. They said, to hell with it, we are having Belt and Road Initiative. You can call it whatever you want. Why don't we also do it? They use the ancient maritime Silk Route. Similarly, we can create the areas, the associations, the regions as we want it. We shouldn't get confined to another term, to other people's terminology. At the 8th Indian Ocean Conference, which we had in Muscat this year, last month, we highlighted 4 points. Indian Ocean must be a separate entity based on the ASEAN outlook on the Indo-Pacific. We can't be a part of the Indo-Pacific. We must take the ASEAN outlook. That within it, India is going to emerge as a global power. That in the long term, can we look at Indian Ocean as a community? But what we need now is the establishment of a central secretariat for the Indian Ocean to see how these organizations can work together and be more effective and see where we go ahead. And I think we must look at South Asia in that background. The South Asia that we talk of is identified with Afghanistan, the Karakoram, Himalayas and the Hindu Kush mountain ranges, and the Indo-Gangetic plain and the Indian peninsula and the islands jutting out to the center of the Indian Ocean. Then we are more than a sub-region. We are more than a subcontinent. We are the intersection of the Indian Ocean. We bridge the Indian Ocean to the east with South China Sea and to the west with Suez, and thereof on to Mediterranean, and to the north we link with China. This landmass will be the centerpiece of Indian Ocean's economic growth. That is how we have to position ourselves. That's what we must think in the future. The multifaceted influence from this landmass will extend beyond what is the present South Asia. The palimpsest cultures of Southeast Asia have layers of Indian influence. Vietnam is a country whose origin goes back to the Funan kingdom, started by an Indian Brahmin called Kaundia. Theravada Buddhism of Sri Lanka has spread to Myanmar, Thailand, Cambodia, Laos, and Vietnam, where the Buddhist priesthood, when the Buddhist priesthood in Sri Lanka became extinct, monks from Siam came to Sri Lanka to restore the ordination ceremonies. There is regular interaction between the Sangha of these countries. Thai language is based on Sanskrit. The ploughing ceremony that they have and we have is common to India. Do you know that they use the Brahmins in the water ceremony during the coronation? Brahmins have to come and pour water in Thailand. So you can see how much this our culture has gone in. The Khmer culture is a mix of Buddhism and Hinduism. Angkor Wat is a good example. The Indian Ramayana is a part of the Indonesian culture. Malaysian and Indonesians are unique Islam countries. Layers of traditional culture influenced by India, then a layer of Islam culture, then another layer of either Dutch, British, or Portuguese, or French. The Islam of Bangladesh and the Hinduism of West Bengal is covered by a thick layer of Bengali nationalism. The national anthems of India and Bangladesh are by the same, Rabindranath Tagore. Furthermore, 7 countries of the region are members of the Commonwealth with similar political, legal, educational, and administrative systems. English is common to all these countries. So now we are seeing the emergence of an area in which there are more commonalities than trade. In ancient times, this region was dominated by Austrasian, Malays, Sri Lankan and Indian sailors and merchants. In medieval times, large trading guilds from India and Aceh merchants established regional trading systems. Some of them are still there. We had no FTA at that time. We had a flourishing rice trade. All this still keeps binding us together. In that sense, a greater South Asia is a landmass spreading from India to Vietnam, which has centuries of common cultures and trading patterns. A greater South Asia stretching beyond the Indian Ocean should not be an issue. As power shifts to Asia, we must determine our regional construct using our own criteria. Let's think anew now. During the 8th Indian Ocean Conference, same one, I highlight the fact that by 2050, there will be a new global order with 3 global powers: China, India, USA. No one else. We have to keep this in the back of our minds when we decide the future of what is called South Asia. In my understanding, the greater South Asia will be a growth pole in Asia. Already there are synergies in the growing regional trade. In addition to India becoming the 2nd largest global economy by 2050, Indonesia will be the 4th largest. Pakistan, Bangladesh, Thailand, Malaysia and Vietnam will be among the first 30 global economies in the world. Today, India has reached the takeoff point to become an economic superpower. Therefore, the next 2 decades will witness an explosion of economic growth. I've been coming to India since 1968. It's now that you have the feeling. Creating an Indian-centric economic region, not only in the greater South Asian region, but also in the Indian Ocean region. The India GDP today is $3.5 trillion. In 2050, it will be 30 trillion US dollars, a 9-fold increase in a little over 25 years. This fast growth will require new supply chains, manufacturing cluster developments in the greater South Asian region. It is likely that supply chains will not be confined to India. It will also include the ASEAN economies. Further, it will also provide opportunities for Nepal, Bangladesh and Sri Lanka to become suppliers of intermediate goods under different comprehensive economic partnership programs with India. A large number of new manufacturing and service clusters may originate from these areas. India is promoting a large number of economic corridors. For example, India and Sri Lanka, if we have this proposed comprehensive economic agreement, partnership agreement, we will have an economic corridor with South India. By 2050, South India will have a $6 trillion US economy. It's possible for Sri Lanka by mid-century to have a $1 trillion economy, which will not be possible otherwise without the rise of the Indian economy. On the ASEAN side already, Malaysia and Singapore have agreed to create a joint special economic zone in Johor to rival Shenzhen. It's already taking place. This will provide a boost to the greater South Asian economy. A further boost will be the fourfold increase in the GDPs of Indonesia, Bangladesh and Thailand by 2050. While India is going ninefold, these countries are going fourfold. Singapore by then will have the largest per capita GDP, well close to $150,000 US a year per citizen. This will double boost Great South Asia growth, simultaneous increase in the GDP of these economies with additional boost due to India-centric supply chains. This is what we are going in for. This rapid economic growth will result in Indian trade with ASEAN countries coming closer to leveling with China. At the moment, China is far ahead. Since China's trade will only increase threefold. India is ninefold, China is threefold. ASEAN will have Indian-centric supply chains coming in addition to the present China-centric ones. Another country which we forget is Japan. They have been a key player in East Asia and Greater South Asia. For the last 50 years, they are the ones that given us development assistance and is now bringing the investment in, even to India. So these economic developments will require new trade architecture. Unlike ASEAN, which will be in for multilateral trade agreement, SAARC countries still have vestiges of protectionist outlook. The Nehruvian socialism has not left our systems altogether. There's something more to go out. Sri Lanka, for instance, opened up first in 1977. Today we lag behind Vietnam, which was then a communist country. The best option for SAARC countries are to enter into bilateral trade agreements and bilateral comprehensive economic partnerships with relevant Greater South Asian countries. We have already started, in addition to discussing with India, and we have the agreement with Bangladesh. We've already had 2 agreements with Singapore and Thailand, and we want to go with Malaysia and Indonesia next. Therefore, there will be no European style of treaties, either Treaty of Rome or Treaty of Lisbon. We will have a noodle bowl of trade agreements, different agreements. It will just look like a bowl of noodles and it will be as much confusing, which will provide a lot of work for our lawyers and for accountants in the region. We do not need new regional organizations. All that we require is a stronger coordination between BIMSTEC, ASEAN and SAARC. We have to make BIMSTEC more effective. An improvement in Indo-Pakistan relations is required for SAARC because by 2075, Pakistan will be the 5th or the 6th largest economy in the world. So all these developments can take place under our proposed Central Secretariat for the Indian Ocean. Finally, let us get on to geopolitics. A Greater South Asia result in India taking a leading role. The dominating economy together with cultural, social and political commonalities will be India. China will have its connectivity to the Indian Ocean through the China-Myanmar Economic Corridor and the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor. ASEAN countries will have both Chinese connectivity projects and Indian connectivity projects. Security-wise, each country will carry out its own policies. In naval affairs, Bay of Bengal will be dominated by the Indian Navy, but we will have Bangladesh, Thailand and Indonesia also taken an interest. Indian Navy will also, as a result of a greater South Asia, be able to go in to the Gulf of Siam, which will also have Indonesian, Thailand, Malaysian, Singaporean and Vietnamese Navy. Now, where are we now? Yesterday night, after we left this place, a global power shift took place. Not here, in the Oval Office of President Trump. You can see a break in the West between President Trump, who believes like us this war can't be won, it should be ended, and the Europeans who have an idea that it can be ended. And I was happy in a way that two of my friends were here, Stephen and Tony, because they have given other different points. I am giving the point that most of us have. But what you are seeing is a break. So when I talked of China, India and America coming together, after yesterday's events, it will be faster. That's going to happen whether you like it or not. So why don't we also looking at it? None of us anticipated it. I didn't anticipate it when I was thinking of it. I only knew today morning. But the whole range is going to change. What will UK do? They can make statements, are going to stay with US or are they going with Europe? Europe has limited strength. Their days are over. So we must now look and act fast. Otherwise that opportunity will slip us. India is coming to a takeoff point. Don't wait till you reach the end in 2030, 2035. We all have to get together and act now. So the greater South Asia will be a new economic and a political region in which India will be the preeminent. In this sense, we must realize our significance not only at the core of world's geography and its history, but also in its future geopolitics. That's where we are coming to. So let's grab the opportunity.
So really appreciate the point of views that you've shared with us, especially the highlight that you provided towards the geopolitical shift after Trump's meeting with Zelensky yesterday is definitely an eye-opener. Now I'm going to call upon my colleague Megha Sharma to have a very small 10-minute question and answer round with the President. Big round of applause, please.
Thank you for that brilliant speech, President Wickramasinghe. And let's dive straight into